players, welcome to another battery guide video. Today we're going to be discussing Kate Bishop. I'm going to show you all the different ways that you can create the battery and status effects with Kate Bishop. She's a bit more on the trickier side like Captain America, where she doesn't have heroics that produce status, so she's a bit more limited in doing solo battery, but she still has some pretty solid effective ways to build her with solo battery. Now remember, the battery effect is when we combine a positive and a negative status. The positive status are Vibranium, PIM, Plasma and Cosmic, and the negative ones are Shock, Cryo, Gamma, and Sonic. Now let's take a look at the build I used to take down Taskmaster at the beginning of this video. What I first applied was Gamma, and I did this with my melee piece called Agent's Edge, in which the power attacks inflict Gamma damage. What I was doing there was the power attack. But the other good thing about this piece is that you can also do light combo finishers with Gamma as well. So you have two ways that you can apply status. The power attack is very ideal for boss fights, but the light combo finisher is still pretty handy when dealing with the regular mob of enemies. Once you apply that Gamma, then you can just use your scatter arrow and put in a positive status. In this case, I went with PIM because I got this adept buff with the PIM. So the adept buff, what it does is similar to the target buff. It's a little less effective than the target buff, in which you have a chance of activating it when you are attacking weak points on an enemy. But the percent chance is lower than a target buff. It's still very effective, however, and you notice on the beginning of this video that it was pretty active almost all the time because scatter shot arrows are a lot of arrows constantly hitting the weak point of an enemy. In terms of my chest piece for Kate, I don't have any specific perks. You can do any perk that you want here. So my focus instead was on the stats. I went for precision stats so I can boost my overall range because my scatter shot arrows will be the ones that are doing the most damage, while the power attack is just simply applying the status for me. The Valor, you don't really need it because for this battery builds you don't really need your heroics. They're nice to have them through normal playing, but for boss fights they don't really do much except just give you support if you need a briefing room for like an OLT fight. And my other piece here is a Charm, which again doesn't have any specific perks that are gonna be a big changers for me, but instead I use it to have more precision stats. As you can see, you can achieve a pretty solid Kate build with scatter shot and the power attack combination to create the battery effect without the need of an exotic, as you can see here. After this, I'm going to show you a build where I did use exotics, but I'm also using the Razor Arrow instead of the scatter shot. But before I continue from this build, my minor artifacts are mainly focused on precision. Unfortunately, I don't have a blue precision artifact yet. I only have one but don't have two, but I did pick up this Northstone that is pretty good in the sense that it has precision and it boosts my overall defense as well. The other thing about this piece, the Lethal Cosmic Surge can be handy because if it activates, it can instantly sometimes provide a full cosmic effect on an enemy, which will fully apply cosmic status on him, and then you can hit him with the opposite status of a negative in that scenario. However, I do not recommend that you build thinking on these minor artifacts. It's just a nice bonus to have, which can be very helpful if you're wanting to do more damage and the cosmic surge happens to go up, but it should never be like your main tool that you want to do. At the end of the day, it's still better that you go for precision stats for Kate because your arrows are the ones that are going to do the most damage here. So here you can see an example of using the light combo finisher so that I apply it to all the enemies that are stepped into the singularity, and then I can scatter shot them all and they're gone. Personally also I prefer the Gamma status for the power attack because it's a status that keeps ticking on the enemy and it tends to stay longer on the enemy and then it can cause an explosion. I feel like it's a pretty effective one. So on this build, I do have some exotics for this one on PlayStation. And I changed a bit my status that I'm going for. Here I'm going reverse. So I have the Hawkbird's Edge. The Hawkbird's Edge can be found in Last Avenger Standing. And the main thing about this piece is that I'm using power attacks to inflict particle damage. For this one, I'm not using the finisher piece. You can, however, find a Hive Mind Sword for Kate instead that might be able to do both and do a potentiator as well. Sadly, I don't have that piece just yet, but it's another recommendation that you can use as an exotic. The benefit of the exotic in this case is more my stats, although I'm not using a melee, the proficiency is very handy for me. Now, the main piece for this change is my range piece, which is a targeted buff arrowheads. On this one, I do have a target buff, which is better than my adept buff on the first build because I have a higher chance of activating the damage buff, and it's triggered by ranged critical attacks. In this case, I'm using the Razor Arrow instead of Scattershot, and it's going to deal shock damage. Now, ideally, you should try to get this on precision as well, and even more so, ideally, you could get Attacking Surge for these pieces. However, getting a target buff and Attacking Surge in one singular piece is very rare and very chance. You can still get it from Monica's weekly mission chain villain sector, but that's a chance. You might get it as legendary, or you can get it potentially from a Tachyon Rift, which also drop Tachyon Surges, including exotics, the set of the Storm. However, those are very chance and very rare to get those two perks at the same time. So ideally, you can go for instead the target buff that you can easily get from just running bonus chests on bolts. For my chest piece, I have the Hive Mind bodysuit. There's nothing special here in terms of perks. Again, this one chest piece is just for my stats. It gives me nice defense resolve, and it also gives me a decent amount of precision as well. Now, the piece that I do find that can be very handy is a Provocateur Charm that you can get from priority missions. One of the great things about this piece is that I have 60 precision here, which I said that my focus on precision has been my main damage here. But also, it has 20% increased damage and impact while Quantum Surge is active. Quantum Surge is when your intrinsic is fully charged, and that happens a few times when you're constantly hitting the boss non-stop uninterrupted. You can see it on the video where my Quantum Surge went active. This piece is making that moment be a bit more damaging of 20%. And of course, my minor artifacts are precision blues. If you're wondering why do I have the 2 blue precision seers and not on my other build that I showed earlier, is because this is my PlayStation version. The first build I showed you was on PC version. Now, if you're wondering for both builds what should be your major artifact, I always prefer the Northstone if I'm just going for the big impact on the boss fight and just get that damage boost. But you can also try Tactagon, as always recommended if you're just doing for status and battery combinations. In terms of skills for Kate, there isn't again anything specific to status, but what you do want to make sure is that you are applying what you're using as part of Kate's kit. So for example, if you're going for power attacks, make sure that you have selected all the skills that benefit power attacks, including the demolition arrows. The demolition arrow is the arrows that you shoot through the power attacks. So you gotta make sure that your skills are correctly chosen for that specific ability. And if your main focus of damage is range, then you should go and select all the damage boosts on range. In terms of your champion points, my recommendation is that you go for the second table where you have all your critical chances and all your status damage increases. And if you're lacking on defenses, as always, you can use that defense table and boost your overall defense to make up for it. And that's it in terms of the Kate Bishop battery build. That's just want to give you an idea of ways that you can build her and make her strong for battery effect, for ultis, and other type of boss fights. Hope this guide is very helpful for you. And next character I'll be covering is Black Panther. I'm almost done with him. I'm just trying to explore all the different ways I can do melee with him. I already have him set up with range. Thank you again for checking out this video and see you next time, Avengers!